We have a presentation today on Minnesota wildlife. It is a little bit long and a little bit dry, just a lot of kind of basic facts about different animals. So I'm going to try to get through it very quickly. And it's probably still going to take a decent amount of time, but let's see how long it'll take. I will note that these are Minnesotan animals, and they are often associated with different ecosystems. Like you might see them more densely in one area versus another. There are basic categories, neighborhoods versus woodland versus prairie, and you'll see that when we go through. We're going to start with birds, and this is not comprehensive. This is not a comprehensive presentation. I just used the what I had available to me. So this is not comprehensive, even remotely. It's about 35 slides, and with a few introductory slides as well. So it's maybe 30 animals with the basic info, but this is basic stuff. Common loon habitat, you need lakes and protected shorelines for nesting. Mobility, they can dive underwater. They can actually hold their breath for a long time. And they can also fly. They can walk on land, but it's kind of awkward because of the positioning of their legs. They are farther back on the body, but they can do it. Diet, they are carnivorous. They eat perch, minnows, trout, crayfish, snails, leeches, insects. Threats, eggs can be taken by predators. Water quality can be a concern. Boat traffic can be a concern, as well as the pollution that goes with the boat traffic. And swallowing tackle, if it is lead, if it's got hooks, that can be a concern as well. Lifespan, the internet said 20 to 30 plus years. Some of the lifespans on here I do kind of question, but th there was a solid range where some of it was in the wild. They might last a shorter amount of time. If they're in captivity, they're going to last a lot longer just because there are much fewer threats out there. 20 to 30 years, that's pretty fantastic. 'Cause you do hear that birds have can have long lifespans. And this is the loon, the common loon, and it is the Minnesota state bird. Mallard ducks, their habitat are marshes, ponds, lakes, rivers, parks. They can fly, they can walk, they can kind of dip their faces into the water, do a little bit of paddling, but they don't really dive that much. Like the loons will be underwater for a solid amount of time looking for food. But they'll still dip their faces in looking for food. They will eat seeds, stems, roots, acorns, insects, crustaceans, frogs, earthworms, small fish. Threats are the predators, fox, birds of prey, raccoons, I apologize, that is a spelling error, snakes, etc. Notes, the drakes are the males and they have green heads, while the hens are the females and they are more mottled brown color. So the one that depicted here is a female and it is a hen. And that is pretty common in a lot of animals too, where the males and the females will differ in how they look. And we do have some cute little duckies here. And they're kind of fuzzy still, so they will grow into more mature feathers as they get older. Canadian geese, their habitat, ponds, lakes, marshes, rivers, city parks. Mobility, they do some floating, walking, and flying, of course. A lot of birds will migrate and go south for the winter. So these are Canadian geese, but they are very common in Minnesota. Like these, of course, in the picture are some babies, as well as presumably the mother here. The diet, they are herbivorous, which means they eat mostly plants, grass, grains, aquatic plants, seeds, berries. Their lifespan, again, can be between 10 and 24 years. Threats are predators, fox, raccoons, wolves, dogs, birds of prey. Their wingspan can be from 5 to 6 feet. This is Eastern wild turkey, wild turkey. These are also turkeys over here. We also have turkey buzzards, but that is not in this presentation today. Um, Habitat, we have a land mix of forest and open space. The mobility, they can fly for short distances, kind of a jump fly, and they roost in trees at night. But they also walk, kind of strut around, and they've got their huge wingspans, 4 feet. They can be very sizable. Diet, ground foraging, nuts, seeds, berries, insects. Their lifespan is about 3 to 5 years in the wild, or 10 to 15. Otherwise, threats are humans, fox, coyotes, wolves, dogs, cats, wildcats, birds of prey. The males are called toms, the females are hens, and the young are called poults. These are woodpeckers. This is a smaller type. They live in forests, woodlands, and neighborhoods. They fly, climb. They will use their beaks, their sharp beaks, to clear space in trees for finding food, pecking, and they can kind of create hollows as well for safety protection. They are omnivores, which means they eat insects mostly, seeds, nuts, and fruits. They are threatened by habitat loss, fires, climate change, and removal of snags. Their wingspan is from 10 to 30 inches. Their lifespan, the small ones have a shorter lifespan generally, says the internet, 2 to 3 years. It can be up to 12 years for some of the bigger birds as well, and they will consistently peck or drum for mating and territorial reasons. Robins, these are common in neighborhoods. You'll see them in suburban areas as well as in city parks and forests. Not so much dense forests for the internet, but they fly, they can hop around, walk sort of. Their diet, worms, caterpillars, grasshoppers, fruits, and berries. Their threats, pesticide poisoning, household cats and dogs, hawks, snakes, foxes, raccoons. Wingspan 12 to 16 inches, lifespan 2 to 6 years. Blue jays, their habitat is forests with oak, hickory, and pine, urban and suburban areas with mature trees. Mobility is flying primarily. They can also hop. Diet, they are omnivorous, acorns, nuts, seeds, insects, eggs, small animals. Threats, birds of prey, habitat loss, cats, pesticides. Wingspan 13 to 17 inches, lifespan 5 to 7 years. Others that are native to Minnesota but are not depicted, eagles, cardinals, crows, chickadees, gulls, like seagulls. You'll see a lot of those in touristy areas where we have a lot of water. There are also pelicans, and we got herons and a number of other birds as well. This is just a very small list. We've got a lot of bird life in Minnesota. Bugs. These are mosquitoes. Some people argue these are Minnesota's state bird. They like wetlands for reproducing, also wooded areas, forests. They can get you really good. Watch for diseases, malaria, encephalitis, West Nile disease. Mosquitoes can walk. They also fly. Female mosquitoes are bloodsuckers. You can see that in the photo. They are being parasites on a human host. The internet did say that they can also eat nectar. The blood isn't necessary for egg development, though. Threats include birds, bats, amphibians, other bugs, small mammals. Lifespan for adult females, it was argued 56 plus days, adult males 10 plus days, up to 6 months with hibernation. That is for the adult part of their lifespan. Like many bugs, they actually have like a 3 or 4 step maturation cycle where they start out and kind of metamorphose as they get older. We're not going to go over that in this presentation, just basics today. Mosquitoes, wood ticks. Wood ticks also can carry disease, so you do want to be careful. They're also parasitic. They feed on the blood of small mammals like mice, voles, deer, dogs, raccoons, really anything that they can jump onto. That's one of their mobility actions, jumping. They also can walk, kind of crawl up your arm. They can last 2 years approximately. They are threatened by birds, spiders, small mammals. They can be a food source for other animals, essentially. But otherwise, they are also countered by or accompanied by deer ticks, which are very comparable except very much smaller. They also like wooded areas, prairies, anywhere with tall grass, where it's kind of moist. The same mobility, they jump, they walk, they can land and kind of catch rides with whatever animals they're being parasites on that day. Of course, they're called deer ticks, so you might find many on deer, humans, pets. These ones are also known for Lyme's disease, so you do want to be conscientious. And if you have been through tall grass, especially during the mating periods, I believe it's around June, July, early summer is when they mate and when they are abundant. And so that is a big time for doing the tick checks. Lifespan, they can be live up to 2 years. Threats, they are also eaten. They are prey to birds, frogs, toads, lizards, spiders. And I think we covered everything there. Ladybugs, they are pretty invasive, but we're going to cover them anyway. Habitat, gardens, forested areas. They like to overwinter in homes. Often you will see them in bulk in a lot of places when it comes to fall and winter. Um, they like windowsills. They will sometimes emit foul-smelling liquid if threatened or if they're held, if they're uncomfortable. But they are kind of a pretty one. A lot of people are comfortable with ladybugs. They can fly, they can walk. They will eat small soft bugs like aphids, and they're threatened by pesticides. But they can be very invasive, so that would indicate that the predators are fewer and um, so they are abundant for that reason. And a lot of what we're touching on in this presentation will often seem exceptionally abundant, which is why they had to be mentioned in the presentation because they are that common. So these are June beetles, and this is the underside. Um, they like the forested areas and also suburban areas. They are attracted to light when it's dark outside, so lanterns they will be attracted to. Um, and they are very big. They're very large, and you can hear them coming because they buzz louder because they are larger. They can walk, they can fly, they eat the foliage of trees and shrubs. They are threatened by amphibians and mixed small mammals that may eat them. And their lifespan is about 1 year. These are box elders. There is a large accumulation here, and these are also can be very invasive, and they can find their way indoors for fall and winter overwintering. They are harmless. They can emit an odor if they are crushed, which means their predators don't necessarily like eating them, hence the abundance of them. They eat box elder, maple, and ash tree. They are beetles. Dragonflies, they like fresh water and edges. These ones also have different stages of life where they will be in the water for a decent chunk of their life. It's at up to a few years. They can be in their prematurity phases, and then their lifespan is um, 1 to 10 weeks as adults. But otherwise, it can be up to 6 years, depending on how long it takes them to turn into adults, because they are comparable to like a butterfly, but that they have the different stages. They are threatened by predators, fish, frogs, newts, birds, spiders, bats, other dragonflies, larger invertebrates. They eat insects, mosquito larvae, and small fish. They swim as nymphs and then they fly. Other bugs not depicted: bees, worms, spiders, ants, moths, mayflies, butterflies. There are way too many. Bugs are the largest subcategory in the life spectrum of existence. And so this is actually the largest section in the presentation, actually. And it's just, barely even brushing the surface of what you'll see in the state of Minnesota, but also in the world. So. Mammals. This one is a smaller section for this presentation, just because I didn't have photos. White-tailed deer. They are uh, found often in the forests, in the prairies, and in some suburban areas also. They are versatile, so they can kind of go back and forth. You do want to watch for road traffic. They can cross the road and they can be hazards there. That is a threat to them, which is actually not on this presentation. But they, especially if there is a wooded area around, they can get into gardens, foodstuff gardens, but also like hostas and flower gardens. They can eat those as well. So they can be pests also. But they walk, they run, they jump. They can, I think, jump up to 8 feet is what it was said. And so if you do want to protect against deer, they'll eat like small trees also. There are special fences, and because they can jump 8 feet, they can jump very high. A lot of different strategies can be utilized, like the fences can be tilted like at an angle, so that way um, if they were to jump, they would get stuck in the fence, and then that would deter them from jumping again. But it could also injure the animal, and um, we don't know if they would learn after one or two jumps not to jump on that, or but yeah, so there are different strategies to keep deer out, different types of safeguards if you do need to protect those areas. But they are fairly comfortable and they are beloved in the state of Minnesota. Diets: acorns, corn, mushrooms, grass, leaves, shrubs. They are threatened by wolves, coyotes, human hunting, road traffic, things of that nature. Bigger predators because they're bigger animals. Lifespan, this was very specific online. Their lifespan is 4.5 years approximately, or 15 plus, which is quite a differential there. Bucks, they said at around 3 years, does at about 7 years, and that's why the average is about 4.5, looking at the 3 years versus the does at 7 years. Squirrels, American red squirrels, they like forests, also suburban areas. Mobility: they walk, they run, they jump, they climb. They eat primarily pine cone seeds, nuts, buds, fungi. Threats: species competition. A lot of, other species exist within the same squirrel categorization. So gray squirrels might be more prominent versus the red squirrels. We've also got black squirrels that you'll see, the occasional albino squirrel. But those are the common ones in the state of Minnesota. Threats: species competition, foxes, cats, wildcats, coyotes, birds of prey, disease, and also vehicular incidents where they may become roadkill. The lifespan is between 3 to 5 years, up to 10 years. Gray squirrels are very comparable to the American red squirrels, and there are different types of red squirrels. So I did actually have to verify that this was a red squirrel because it's reddish brownish, but you can kind of see some gray around the edges here, and they don't have the same pointed ears that you might see in other species of red squirrels. And this is, of course, not the greatest photo, and that's one of the notes at the end was about identification. So, but I do believe this to be an American red squirrel. That is something to bear in mind. But the gray squirrels are also very common. They can be a little bit bigger. They like the same types. environments, wood forests, city parks, suburban areas. They jump, climb, walk, run. They are omnivorous, so they eat nuts, seeds, buds, flowers, fungi, insects, eggs. They are threatened by birds of prey, foxes, and wildcats. Their lifespan, 1 to 2 years in the wild or 6 to 12 plus years. And a lot of them can become relatively domesticated. Obviously, you do see videos on the internet of squirrels water skiing. They can come up to your hand and eat from your hand as well. That is not necessarily best practices, but you'll see that too. Same with deer. They might be fed, and that's another questionable because if they are coming to you for food, do they still remember how to eat out in the wild and can they still fend for themselves? One of those moral ethical debates of what role should humans have in their lives. And it is best practices to be good stewards and to care about them and to help them live long, good lives. But the minutia can be discussed. Rabbits, they like forests, urban areas, grasslands, deserts. They're abundant. We don't have deserts in Minnesota, but I remember seeing my first forest bunny compared to like a backyard bunny, and it was so lean and so fast. It just raced out of there, and I was just amazed by this wild rabbit that in Minnesota, and it just it was so fast and so lean. Versus backyard bunnies can be a little bit bigger and they can find food sources. So it is unique and it's very cool to see the differences. They run, they walk, they hop, they are jump. Um, they can swim. I had to double check that on the internet because I was just curious. Like I was also curious if turkeys could swim, and there weren't any evidences for turkeys floating like a duck. But there was a video of a bunny rabbit swimming. So kudos, the things you don't think of. Many prefer not to, it says. Sometimes the water can affect their skin. They're small mammals, so sometimes it's argued that if they don't dry, the water can affect their skin, the oils on their skin. They can get diseases. They can get hypothermia if the water is too cold, and if the environment isn't warm enough. So different things like that. Diet, grass, hay, leafy greens. Threats, birds of prey, fox, wolves, dogs, and cats. Coyotes, snakes, wildcats. Lifespan, 10 plus years is what the internet said. And of course, it is argued that they procreate very abundantly, and so they can also be considered pests, especially if they do get into the garden and they do eat vegetables, then they might be a problem. Field mice, habitat, forests, grasslands, agricultural areas, mobility, walking, running, climbing. Their diet, they are omnivorous, so they eat seeds, berries, insects, worms, fungi. Threats are birds of prey, snakes, weasels, foxes, coyotes, cats, raccoons. Um, Lifespan is about 1 year. Others not depicted, beavers, raccoons, coyotes, porcupines, skunks, muskrats, cougars, bobcats, bears, badger, marten, fox, bison, shrews, moose, moles, mink, fisher, lynx. And some of these, you can if you know you can live your whole life and not see them in the state of Minnesota. Um, so this I actually looked up because I did want this one to be more comprehensive. Um, but a lot of them you might not necessarily see all of the time. I know I've seen, I think maybe a porcupine in my 35 years. I've seen skunks. I think I saw one sort of wildcat, but that was actually over in Wisconsin. I've seen a few bears, no badgers, no martens, I've seen fox, but those were over in Wisconsin as well. Bison we have, but they are being, they're in preserves to try and get cattle blood. They're trying to purify that bloodstream again and get the cattle blood out because there was crossbreeding in the past, and so that's another story for another time. Moose, I've never seen a moose in the state of Minnesota. Maybe one. Actually, now that we're thinking about it, maybe in the Boundary Waters, maybe not. I can't remember. Um, but otherwise, I haven't seen a lot of them. But they are in theory around. So amphibians and reptiles. This is a common one, painted turtles. They live in ponds, lakes, marshes. They can walk and also swim. They are omnivorous, which means they eat plants, insects, fish, and carrion. Habitat loss is one of the primary threats. Pollution, illegal collection, and also road mortality being roadkill. Lifespan 30 to 55 plus years. Turtles are another one that are argued to live a very long time. But I cannot verify the lifespan of the turtles. They are called painted turtles because you can kind of see in this photo, they've got stark yellow outlines on their body proper, on their face, their arms, legs, tails. But also, if you flip the shell over, the underbelly of the shell is all oranges, reds, blacks, and so it's vibrant. It is very, very vibrant. They are very beautiful animals. They're relatively small, um, but they are abundant in the state of Minnesota. Toads, this is an American toad. The habitat forests, prairies, suburban areas with access to water, mobility. They swim, they hop. Diet, insects, slugs, worms. The tadpoles are herbivorous. And they procreate using tadpoles, which again also have the different stages where they are in the water and then they kind of metamorphose into the toad proper with the legs and the hopping. So, and that's actually an interesting process too, because tadpoles have the long tails, almost like fish, and then that once they become toads, you can kind of see this is where the tail would have been, and they lose the tails. So, threats, habitat loss, pesticides, disease, road mortality, and lifespan between 1 and 10 years. American bullfrogs, their habitat is lakes, ponds, slow-moving rivers. Swimming, hopping is how they get around. Diet, insects, crayfish, small fish, the tadpoles, comparable life stages to the toads that we just talked about. But the tadpoles eat plants and other detritus that you might find in the water. Threats are birds, reptiles, fish, river otters, raccoons, and their lifespan is between 7 to 10 years. And that's all in way of the animals that we're going to talk about today. But the note is just saying identification in the wild can be difficult. You need to look at the minutia and look at the context clues as well as the wing shapes, the coloration, to see, is this an eagle? Is this a crow? Is this, and the shapes of the heads are a hint with birds like hawks versus eagles versus crows, and it can be difficult, if they're in the environment, if they're far away, but even if they're up close, that's the other note. Identification in captivity can also be hard. You'll see people struggling to say, no, this is a male, this is a female. I was reading about animal identification and categorization, and they were saying that it's still difficult to ascertain which animals are the same species, but just look look so different because they are males versus females, that is still a touchy point trying to figure out because of how many animals exist. And if you're looking at them and finding them in nature, it can be difficult to know if they can procreate together or or if if that is um, not of the same species, but slowly kind of evolving over time too with the interspecies procreation, things like that. It can also be difficult to figure out what things are when they're right in front of us. So with that, we're going to wrap this up now. Any questions?